Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of the West Shore Photography Club, and any guests if there are any. It's October the 20th, 2025, and this is a regular meeting of the West Shore Photography Club. Tonight, I'll be doing a presentation entitled Add Mood and Atmosphere to Your Photos. And I know you're as excited as I am about this, but before we get to that, we have a few things to talk about business-wise. I know most of you have already renewed your membership, but for those few stragglers who might be out there, please take care of that tonight or tomorrow. At the end of the month, I'm going to go through the membership roster and update the deadline for your memberships. So to continue uploading images, you would need to renew your membership. Of course, everybody is welcome to attend the meetings and the field trips, regardless of whether you renew or not. Guests, of course, are welcome, but we ask that you chip in $25 to help the club meet expenses. All right, we've got some trips coming up. Jean, would you talk about the trips?
I sure will. This Saturday, Dennis and Mark will be leading a trip at Pine Grove Furnace. It will be a scavenger hunt. I know last week Dennis sent out the list, and it's not only items, but it's also techniques, which is kind of cool. And I'm sure he'll have more information on that. On Saturday, November 1st, we're going to go to the Steel Stacks in Bethlehem. Going to meet there at 2 o'clock, I believe. Steve and Mark are leading that. And their big thing for that is to do the nighttime lights from the stacks. So that's going to be cool, nighttime or sunset. And then Thursday, on November 13th, we're going to be going to the Star Barn. I'm hoping that we're going to have access to the inside. I will have that confirmed by our next meeting. And there's a lot of things outside of the Star Barn to take pictures of. It's really pretty. And there's a swan, and he likes to pose. Trust me on that. He likes to pose. And Mary, Fox, Elaine, and I will be leading that, and that will be at 10 o'clock in the morning on November 13th. So those are our trips coming up, and we'll have one in December for Children's Lake to do the luminaries and the Christmas tree in the middle of the lake. And we'll have more information on that for December then. Dennis?
Very good. Thanks, Dean. Yeah, regarding the trip on Saturday to Pine Grove Furnace, we do have a scavenger. Mark and I put together a list for the scavenger hunt. And as Jean said, it involves not only subjects, but techniques to use to photograph those subjects. Now, if you're the bashful type and you don't want to participate in the scavenger hunt, that's quite all right too. Just come along and enjoy the day. Hopefully the weather will be good. Obviously, the leaves are turning colors. And the wind was blowing so hard today, I'm sure they're starting to blow off the trees, but hopefully we'll be good for Saturday. All right. Regarding our print exhibit at the Mechanicsburg Arts Center, you are still eligible and encouraged to submit up to 3 images. The deadline for submission is not until next week. I think maybe Tuesday of next week. Thursday of this week, the 23rd, is the first submission date, delivery date. So we would ask you that you take your prints over to the Mechanicsburg Arts Center either this Thursday or next Tuesday. So actually next Tuesday would be the final deadline. Now, some people, I send an email asking you to send thumbnails to the Mechanicsburg Arts Center of at least one of your images, and that was used in a promotional effort to promote the exhibit. But I'm responsible for putting the catalog together for the exhibit. So I will be asking everybody who enters any number of images, 1, 2, or 3, to send me the thumbnails, small versions of their images, so I can add them to the catalog. So when visitors come, they'll pick up a copy of the catalog and they'll have a picture and the description and some information about at least your name, okay, to identify with the photograph. So I'll be taking care of that.
Question, Dennis.
Yes, Rod?
Uh, When we submit the photographs, we have to pay. Do they accept check or cash or either?
I assume either.
Right.
Yeah, probably Venmo and PayPal and anything else, any other way you want to give them money. But I can't guarantee that.
Yeah.
All right. Now, our next online meeting will be held on Monday, November the 3rd. It's an image review, so the information will go out about that in a couple of days, if not tomorrow. Mike Donovan's going to be the reviewer on November the 3rd, and we did attach a theme to that. So, Mike, are you with us tonight? I didn't check the participants. Mike Donovan, you online? Let me check my alphabetical order. Doesn't look like it. Okay, I'll speak for him. The theme is my property. And the idea that the directors came up with there is that you could submit any photograph that you take on your property. So could be outside, could be inside, could be the kitchen, could be, well, you get the idea. Could be anywhere, could be anything. It's wide open. Could be your house, a picture of your house, whatever. It's simply my property. And as we do most times, we don't give a good definition of the theme because we leave it up to your imagination. Okay, but my property. And that'll be Mike Donovan. So we'll need to get your images uploaded to the website before the midnight of the Wednesday before. Okay, but I'll put that all in the email tomorrow, and another reminder will go out before that. Okay.
Dennis,
Yes, Rod.
you said the images can be of your property. Can it be from your property looking out?
Well, I don't know. It says Mike says my property. So I'm not going to comment on that. I'll leave it up to you. You could use a long telephoto lens and shoot the moon, and I guess you could call that my property. Anyway, okay, guys. Tonight.
Can I add one thing?
Yes, Gene.
From the people that went to Old Bedford Village on Saturday, let's see, Mary and Eve and Mike Lackey. Don't forget to upload some of your images to our website, our Smug Mug website.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have anything for the good of the order? Because once I get started, I'll be on a roll. Okay, guys. A while back, well, before the club year started in September, we put out an email asking for your suggestions for topics and presenters for club meetings. We would like to present material that you're interested in. And a number of people said that they would, we gave them some options to choose from. And a fair number of people said that they would like to learn how to add emotion and mood and mystery and atmosphere and excitement, to their pictures. So I volunteered to put a presentation together. That's what I'm going to show you tonight. But I wanted to start out by saying that I'm dealing with post-production, okay? You should also be thinking about ways to add mood and atmosphere to your images when you're shooting. For instance, think about the moment, that first kiss of the bride and groom after they're married, a beautiful sunset, a winning touchdown, the reaction of the crowd after the winning touchdown, the first steps of an infant. Okay, those are all captured at the time. Okay, now, and that's great, and you should think about ways to do that and capturing those moments and the timing. My presentation, however, tonight is about images you've already captured. What can we do with them now? So, this is going to be a demo survey mode type of presentation. I want you to see some of the effects, and I don't have the time, of course, to teach how to do each one of these. However, we all know that YouTube is a great source, not only of inspiration, but of instruction. So my goal is to provide the inspiration to generate a desire on your part to investigate how to do some of these things. And if I can help you in some way, please let me know. But there's plenty of information out there on YouTube and other sources to allow you to help you to learn how to do these things. So I plead with you not to get frustrated as I zoom through these techniques. Okay, if you're going to stop and ask, how did you do that? How did you do that? It would take forever. So just sit back and relax. You can always watch the recording again, but I'm not going to take the time to show, I'm going to show you some of the steps, but not going to take the time to show you how to do everything in detail. I want to show you what can be done, not necessarily how it's done. Okay. So with that in mind, let me share my screen. Okay, and I'm going to bring up a PowerPoint presentation. Update available. Oh, no, don't update. Let's see, share screen. Okay, sharing screen. Let me need to pull up my PowerPoint. Patience, please. Okay, somebody tell me, can you see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Good. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, that's always the first big hurdle. Hit that again. Okay, I think we're good to go. As long as I can get the PowerPoint to move. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Okay, let me show you a couple examples. You can see the original picture in the upper right-hand corner. And I thought, well, I can, do something with this to make it more exciting. So as you can probably tell, I added a painting effect. Those look like brush strokes, hopefully. And I added that stroke in the image to make it a little more interesting. I think that the stroke was done, I think, in Snapseed. It's an app for your phone, both Android and iOS. And the painting effect, as you can see down in the lower right-hand corner, was done with an app on my iPhone called Aristo Impresso. And I'll talk more about these apps later. And if I have time, actually show you the app, on my iPhone. But that's adding a painting effect. This one is from Pompeii when we visited. And the sky was, well, you can see what the sky looked like in the upper right-hand corner. And I thought, well, I can do something like with that to make it look a little different, maybe a little more exciting, maybe a little more antique-ish, maybe a little more, desert-ish, whatever. So in Photoshop, as you can see down in the lower right-hand corner, I used layers in Photoshop to add a texture layer and a color overlay. Okay, I'll talk more about those later. What we're talking about here is an impressionistic style in photography. We're not talking what you saw necessarily or what you photographed. So if you're a photojournalist, this isn't going to interest you as much. This is more on the artistic side. And the movement in photography stems from a similar movement in painting. Okay, I'm sure you've heard of the impressionistic artists, Renoir, and many others from the 19th century who started that art movement. Well, in photography, we have to use our own particular techniques to simulate the effects. Okay, we don't use brush strokes, of course. So we use things like long exposures, soft light, add texture layers, add color overlays, to add, a level of interest to the image that maybe didn't exist before. So it's not a matter of simply documenting the image, it's a matter of taking it beyond that. When we first start out in photography, your goal is to get a well-exposed photograph. And of course, in most cases, that's still the case, but most of us have moved beyond that. And you're looking not only for a well-exposed photograph, but you're looking for something special about it, that moment that I was talking about, that decisive moment, perhaps, or other ways to add emotion, to the image. There we go. I don't know why. Sometimes it's reluctant to move. So here are a couple of the techniques that I've used with the images that I'm going to show you. In some cases, I blend multiple photos together, and I'll explain a little bit more about how I go about that. In some cases, I add a texture layer. You might refer to it as grit, okay, to an existing photo. And Gina and I were talking before the meeting started that we both go out and we photograph things to use, texture photos to specifically use for this purpose, and we keep them in a separate library for easy reference. So when we're out photographing for any reason, if we see an interesting brick wall, okay, I just did this, Thursday night. My granddaughter had her wedding rehearsal and reception, and we were at JoJo's in Mechanicsburg, and upstairs in the restaurant part, beautiful brick walls. So I took a couple pictures of those, and I put them in my texture library just to use later on. So I've got them divided up into brick and wood and sand, stone, fog, clouds, all those sorts of things. Now, you can also have custom-made files. You can go out online and buy these sorts of things if you want to, but you don't have to. Okay, you can make your own. You can do color overlays, as we're going to see. You can photograph a very colorful sunset, let's say, and just use the clouds and the sunset, as a layer that you blend in with another photograph. Or you could buy custom-made files for that too, but no need to. You can add a painterly effect through numerous programs or apps. As most of you probably already know, the apps that you download and install on your phone and your tablet aren't suitable or can't be used on your computer or your laptop or your PC. Okay, whether it's like a Mac Pro or a PC, and the programs that you use on your computer generally can't be used on the iPad, or the iPhone or Android phones. So they operate on different systems and have to be formulated differently. So we have different programs depending, different programs that do the same thing. Some of them do it for the phones, some of it do it for your computer. Or you can add interesting elements. There's a program or an app, I should say, for your phone called Distressed FX Plus, and you can actually add birds to that. And it's just, potentially another interesting element you might add to a plain sky. Now, let's look first at your phone or your tablet. So I wanted to generalize this presentation. So, everybody, I'm sure all of you who have dedicated cameras also have phones with cameras. The question is, how much do you use those cameras in lieu of your dedicated camera? Well, I'm here to promote the use of your phone camera, and there's some great apps that you can use to do that. Now, here are some of the examples. Snapseed by Google. It's free, and it's the world's most popular phone app for editing iPhone, or editing either iPhone or Android, and adding special effects, frames, special looks, turning your picture black and white, all sorts of things. Now, there's an app called Blender, Image Blender, and it's for iOS or Apple products, and it allows you to take two photos and combine them. You can blend them together. Once you do that, you can actually flatten the layers, and then you can take the composite of the two and bring in a third photo and blend it in with the composite. So you can do that to add really as many photos as you want. The trick is blending them so they make some kind of sense and they look good together. Now, if you have an Android phone, then you'd want to go with the app called Ultimate Photo Blender Mixer. does the same thing. We're going to look at Distressed XF Plus. That has become one of my favorite apps to use on the phone, and the one I mentioned previously called Artista Impresso. Okay, and that's to add painting effects. It doesn't like to advance sometimes. There we go. Okay, this is something I did in Image Blender when I was on a cruise. My wife and I were in the future cruise director's office. She was arranging our a future cruise, of course, and I was doing my usual thing of spinning the globe and taking pictures and playing. So I thought, well, I put the phone on the iPhone on the desk, and I thought, well, if I spin the globe and take the picture as a live photo, and then change it to long exposure mode, I could get that effect, and it worked. I had to take a couple of pictures and change how fast I was spinning the globe, but that's what I got on the left. And then I looked around his office, and if you see over here to our left and his right, you see that map on the wall. And I just loved that map. It really had a cool look to it. So I took pictures of just the map, which you see on the right, and that was to use, not by itself, but to use in combination with this particular photo or down the line with some other photo at some later time. Okay. And after I did that, I went into Image Blender and I put those two images together to get this one. So you noticed before the globe didn't have any texture on it. It was just blurred from the movement. Let's go back and look. Okay. Just blurry from the spinning. So the texture overlays the globe and it overlays the wall. And look at the table at his desk. See how it overlays his desk? But you don't see it on the future cruise director. No, because Image Blender has the capability of masking. So you use your finger as the brush and you go in and just brush over his body and erase the texture layer from him. Okay, so you have masking capabilities. Here's one using Distressed FX. And you can see the original shot in the upper right. And I like the sunset, but it wasn't as colorful as it could be. In the sky is kind of boring. And I thought, oh, I know what I can do. I can liven that up in Distressed FX. So number one, if you look at the sky, you see the markings in the sky. That's the texture layer that was added. And I hope we have time. I'll show you Distressed FX. We should. And you add a texture layer. And then you notice the additional color, the oranges and the yellows that are added on top of that. That's the color overlay. So those two were added. And then a third layer were the birds. So with the birds, you can go in then and you can take your two fingers, you can make the birds larger or smaller. And with one finger, you can move them around where you want them in the frame. So you can turn an image like the one in the upper right to an image like the one on the main screen. This image I really, really liked. It's the original, of course, in the upper right again. This is at Indian River Inlet in Delaware. And I thought, I can spruce that up a little bit. It looks, I don't know about you, but I get annoyed with digital photographs because they're too real. They're too sharp for me. They're too documentary. And I'm thinking to myself, I've got to do something to this image. I've got to give it a painterly effect or add a texture layer or a color overlay or all of the above. So I did that in Distressed FX Plus, okay? And then the frame, then I saved it. And then I took the photo into, and I'm pretty sure it was SnapArt, and added the digital frame. So my approach with the phone is to take the original picture and then go from an app to maybe several apps that allow me to add, certain effects. You can't do, or I can't do everything that I want to do in just one app, with just one app. Now, this is kind of a crazy posterization effect, and it was also done in Distressed FX. I think this is in Honolulu, and took the picture on the right and thought, I'm going to do something interesting. And then Distressed FX added color overlays. It added the texture in there, gave it a weathered look, gave it a posterization look. Just something different, something different. Here's one of the painting effects, another one that I like. I showed you that sailboat earlier, and this was with Artista Impresso, and the original in the upper right, and then adding the painterly look. And as I'll show you in a couple minutes, these apps are very easy to use. They just have presets that you click until you find the effect that you like. Yeah. Another one, this was actually taken in a kayak. And I did what I advised my iPhone photography students not to do. I zoomed in by stretching my two fingers apart, because this great blue heron was so far away. I figured, well, if I'm going to get anything worth wow at all, I'm going to have to zoom in a little bit. So I got the picture on the upper right, and if you were to zoom in on that, you would see it's not real sharp. Okay, it's pixelated a little bit. Okay, but guess what these apps do? These painting apps blur the details. They add brush strokes. So if you have an image that doesn't meet your technical specs, like it's not as sharp as you'd like it to be, that might be the perfect candidate for a painting app. Okay, because look what I got to the left. I used Impresso. This picked out a particular painting effect, and Impresso, it not only adds the brushstroke effects, which you can vary, okay, the intensity of them and the nature of the brushstrokes, but it also automatically adds a digital frame. So I didn't have to take this into Snapseed. I just went into, just did the whole thing in Impresso. Okay. This thing's, okay, we're going to take a minute. I'm ready to switch now and talk about computer-based programs to add these effects. But before we do, I'd like to show you a couple of the ones on the phone. So let me stop sharing here, and I'm going to share on my iPhone. Okay, bear with me here. Share the screen. Start broadcast. Okay, connecting. Okay, I think you can now see my screen. Let me go to, okay. I'm going to bring up an image. Now, the way for you iPhone users, if you get into the Photos app, okay, you have your library, photo library down at the bottom in the lower left. Oh, now I'm on iOS 26. I upgraded to 26. I'm not on 18, so it might look a little different. But down at the bottom, you see library and you see collections. So collections are your way to organize. If you use Lightroom Classic or another program, often you'll have collections or you have albums. And I put together a number of photos that I wanted to potentially to use in this demo, and I put them together in this demo West Shore Photography Club, which is the second one down. So these are all images that I could use for this purpose. And let's just pick out any one of these. I'll pick out, let's take this beach scene. Okay. Now, there is no easy way to get this directly into Distressed FX. So what I have to do is I'll go out of that. I'll pick out the app. There's Distressed FX, and I don't, in the middle at the top. So I hit Distressed FX and the program opens. This is what it looks like. And there in the upper left corner, you can barely see it, but there's a little camera icon. So you tap on that and you get the options. You could actually take your picture now, or you could just select a picture that you already took. So now I'm on my Photos app, and I'm going to go to collections like I showed you before. And there's the demo collection. And I'm going to pull up that same picture that I just showed you a minute ago. I want to accept this picture. I could do some basic adjustments down at the bottom. You can see the tools, but I usually do the adjustments in the Photos app or in Snapseed before I bring it in to Distressed FX or a similar program. So here I'll just hit the check mark in the lower right, and that accepts the picture. Now I've got two layers of effects 2 layers. So I'm going to tap on one and you can see what it does. There's without it, there's with it. I tap on the next one, and you just go through their presets. They're easy to use. To be honest with you, I do get a little frustrated because it's hit or miss. You just go through until you find one that you like. And then chances are good that if you find one you like, it's going to be a good one for a lot of photos later on too. So you add one layer and then you go to the bottom layer and you can add additional effects. Oh, that's pretty cool. Okay. So if you like that effect, then you have options. You can go in and with these sliders, you can vary the opacity of the different layers. Okay. Now, yeah, so you can make them stronger or weaker. And let's see, do we have, trying to remember if we have masking capabilities in this app. I don't think we do, but I don't remember exactly. Okay, so that's a way in Distressed FX to use the different layers. And then you get to like at the end of the top layer, it says switch pack. And what you get then are other packs of effects that you can use on the pictures. So you have all these as part of Distressed FX, but they're just more presets. They're just slightly different than the ones I've already shown you. Now you do have, I'm sorry. You do have a masking, that's a blur. Yeah, that's a blur effect. Get out of there. That I think gives you some masking capabilities. Here are the birds. Let's say I pick this cluster of birds and it adds them. If I use my 2 fingers, then I can make them larger or smaller and move them around to different parts of the scene. Okay. I will agree that this sometimes looks a little fakish, and you may want to lower the opacity if you don't want to juice it up too much. They're overly saturated. I know that. So what you can do is what I showed you earlier there is you go in and these sliders in the lower right, that with those sliders, then you change the look and you can change the strength of the presets. Okay. Now we could spend all evening on Distressed FX, but I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to back out of there. And if I go up to the top in the upper right-hand corner, that box with the upper arrow gives me my save options. And then I just hit save image, which is in the one third row down, second one in, and boom, it's saved to my photo library, the Apple's photo library. And I get the option of posting it on Instagram if you're so inclined. Okay, get that option. So I'll dismiss that. I'll close out of Distressed FX. Other than technical questions about how it works, or what, do you have a question about what it can do, or without getting into the details? Anything on Distressed FX before I move on? Okay. Now, with the other apps, okay, there is a cool way to go directly from the Apple Photos app. For instance, I'm going to go to the painting effect, and that looks good on these flowers. I think they'd look good in the painting program. So without explaining how this is done in detail, in the lower left-hand corner, you see the sharing icon again. When I tap that, I get some options like AirDrop, Lightroom, Snapseed. And if I tap on that icon, it'll take me directly into that app that I tap. Well, it just so happens that Impresso's not included here either. Okay, thought it was. Okay, but if I wanted to go into Snapseed, boom, I could tap on that and it would take it directly into Snapseed. So what I'm going to have to do is go back into Photo Edit. There's Impresso, third one on the top layer, top row. Hit that, and this is what it looks like when it opens. I tap Get Photo down at the lower, let me see, I think I'm getting a little bit of an echo. I'm going to turn my volume down. Get Photo at the lower left, and this brings up, again, my photos and my collections. So I'll go to the collections, go to that demo album that I created. There's the flower image. I tap on it. Now, this is very easy to use. It has the presets. Again, down at the bottom, you have the presets. Right above it, you have two different categories. One is alla prima. The other one is en plein air. So if I tap en plein air, I just get a different set of presets. Okay, so I'll go with the first one, alla prima. You tap it, and it applies the effect. If you go to the next one, it taps it. You tap it, it applies the effect. So again, you just keep going and on. But notice that it also applied a digital frame. Oh, well, you have options. If I go in the icon above the pictures that looks like a digital frame, that little square right there. Oh, now I can, whoops, not that one. There's one, pardon me. There's one of these where I can change this. Yeah, one of those allows me to change the width of that frame, the digital frame. But the idea there is, under stars, you have home. Home is the little house there to the left. And then you have, it gives you the options for get photo, crop, info, save, and share. You hit the star, and this is where your presets are. And it's a matter of going through and see if you like the effect that it has. And then if you try the other icons right above the picture, there's the house, the star, and then looks like a palette, color palette, paintbrush palette. And then you can do things like change the brush size and the bristle depth and the color enhancement and the painted edge. There it is. Painted, I can change, they call it a painted edge. I call it a frame. You can change the width of the frame. So that's basically what you can do with that one. Again, I go back, I hit the little house and I go to share, or I can hit save in this case. I just hit save and boom, it's automatically saved back to the Apple Photos app again. All these apps are designed to save back to the Apple Photos app. So I'll close out of that. Any questions on Impresso? Okay, I think we're go pretty smoothly. Just let me show you Image Blender. It won't take long. As you can see, it's on the second row, first one in, and this is what it looks like when it opens up. Not much to it. There's a block in the lower left corner and an empty block in the lower right-hand corner. You simply tap on one of them. I'll tap on the one on the left, and I can take the picture now, or I can go to my photos. So just like before, I select a photo from that album that I was in, and I'll select something like, these buildings at the beach. Now I tap the block on the right, and I get the same option. So I'll bring that up. I'll go to collections, go back to demo, and let's pick this texture layer, Porta Varta, okay, to put over top. Okay, and boom, there I've got a texture layer over top the base image, and then you have the tools up at the top. You see the pencil to the left, that's your masking tool. So use your finger to mask away. If you, let's say you wanted to mask the texture off the building, you could do that. Or you can use these, blend modes. So for you people who are Photoshop users, you're already familiar with these probably. If you're not a Photoshop user, this is simple. They are just presets to try that determine how the two layers are blended together. I'll demonstrate. The first one is called multiply. Okay, do I like that? Yeah, I kind of do. Can I vary the effect? No. I mean, I could still mask it off the building, but I can't change the strength of it or do anything like that. Let's go to screen. Well, that basically made the texture layer disappear. How about overlay? Okay, well, darken, yeah, it's similar to multiply. So they're presets that determine how the two layers blend together. That's all you need to know about that. The next one are the little arrows that go up and down. This is a range, meaning now you can move the image around. And in fact, if for some reason I wanted to reposition, well, I can spread it apart. Okay, so it takes up more area. Pardon me. I can spread out the texture layer, okay? and move it around then to where I want it for a different look, or I can bring it back in. Now it's only gonna show the part that covers the base layer, okay, the buildings at the beach. But if I wanted to, I could take my two fingers and spin it around sideways, even put it upside down. Okay. So I can save that, or I can cancel, and I'll just cancel that effect. And I go back to my layers there. But the cool part is with the masking. If I wanted to mask, I'd use my two fingers and I get more detailed. So now I hit the pencil. See the pencil at the bottom? The eraser is pointed toward, it's down. So that means it's going to erase the effect. Look at that. Now you spreaded your two fingers apart to make it larger so you can be more precise with it. Okay. But if you're careful, then you can go in and do a pretty good job of erasing that just from the building, which might be a little more to your liking. And of course, you can reduce the effect. Oh, I didn't show you that. Yeah. See the slider at the middle between the two photos? Well, you can reduce the opacity. If you just want a little bit of that texture layer to show through, there you go. Or you could use a lot. Okay. Use that slider. And that is affecting the opacity of the layer on the right. That's considered the top layer. The one on the left is the bottom layer. Any questions about Image Blender? Cool. Just like the other ones, arrow at the top, I could hit that and it could, oh, this is where you have flatten. So, pardon me. So watch this. I hit flatten and now there's only an image on the left, but it's the composite of the two I just worked on. So now I can hit the image, the block on the right and go through the same process with a third image and blend in a third image. I know what you want. You want the birds, right? Oh, they're in distressed FX though. Okay, I don't have a picture of just the birds, but you could have. If you had a picture of just birds, you could blend them in. Okay, so you tap it again up here and it's save to photos. Boom. It's saved to your Apple Photos app, just like the other ones. Okay, I'm going to close out of Image Blender, not the Zoom meeting. Don't do that. Okay, and that. Close these apps. How many apps do you keep open on your phone at one time? Okay, so let's go to that. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my iPhone. Let's see where is. Yeah, there we go. Stop share. Okay, it's time to move into things you can do on your computer. So unless somebody stops me, I will go back to sharing my screen. Let me make sure the, whoops. Yeah, now I got, oops, I can't do that just yet. This is a little tricky the way you have to do this in Zoom, you know? In fact, I guess, oh, there it is, Okay. Share screen. Okay, you should now be able to see. Back to my PowerPoint presentation. Now on your computer, there are some effects, some programs, I should say, that require a layer-based program to use, okay? And if you want a layer, if you're going to use a layer-based program, then you can use any one of these. Now, Photoshop, Topaz Studio 2, that's the one that's been discontinued, so I don't really recommend, getting into that, except for, you can still add effects with it, though. And I talked about that earlier. SnapArt 4, I have been using for a long, long time. And I highly recommend SnapArt 4. It's by a company called Exposure. And you can take any picture and you can turn it into, to use different painting effects on it. And I'll demonstrate that in just a minute. Corel Painter, PixArt, and Canva. Yeah, something happened to my PowerPoint presentation. It got changed here a little bit when I converted from the PC to the MacBook Pro, because I had changed this slide. SnapArt 4 is not layer-based, and you don't need a layer-based program. You don't need Photoshop to do that. So I apologize. When I send the copy out tomorrow as a PDF, it'll have the correct version on. So this MacBook Pro messed me up. Anyway, okay. Yeah, they went to an older version, it looks like, and I checked this. Other layer-based programs, let me go back here a second. Okay, these are the programs that you would use to add the effects. Okay, and these, if you want to add layer-based effects, like I'm going to show you in a minute, you would have to use a program like this. Like Photoshop can use layers. On-One Photo Raw, Affinity Photo, Paint Shop Pro, they can all use layers to do these effects I'm going to show you. Okay. Now, a couple examples. This was at Gerhardt Machinery on a West Shore Photography Club trip. And this is the original, of course, in the upper right. And I took this into Photoshop and used a color overlay. Now, the interesting thing about this color overlay, I picked this up from Matt Kloskowski. I'm taking a class of his now, and I actually made that color overlay in Photoshop using generative fill. So I won't explain how I did it, but I wanted to let you know it can be done as part of your subscription. You can make a variety of very interesting color overlays similar to that, but different colors and different effects. But that's all they are. They're overlays. And I'm going to use this picture, how I did this in just a couple of minutes. Another example, and this is from Photoshop. If you notice the background here, it just has a different look to it. It's not smooth like the original. I just added an overlay or with some texture in it. These are some boats, very colorful boats down in Mexico. And again, I used Photoshop. Look at the sky. It'd be the easiest way to see it. Clear on the original, has some texture and some color to it. This is one of those that's kind of subtle. And you determine how strong you want the effect to be. And a lot of times what I'll do, if I'm working in Photoshop, I'll add the effect as a separate layer and keep the original. I'll duplicate the original, let's say first, duplicate the original. And then the top layer I'll take and I'll do the effects on it. And if I think they're too strong, then I have the two layers and I can always reduce the opacity of the top layer that has the effects. That's a real cool thing to be able to do, and it doesn't look so overpowering. And I'm just showing you examples now of what can be done. This is SnapArt, and any photo that you have, if you buy SnapArt from Exposure, the company Exposure, you can use, this is one of the many, many different effects, painting effects and others that you can employ. You don't need Photoshop to use SnapArt. Now, this is pretty wild, and I admit, even for me. And there's the original on the right. And this was done, I was on my kayak down in Delaware when I took this picture, but the effects were added in Topaz Studio 2. Yeah, I quite frankly like that, even though it is over the top. Okay, and then there's some good candidates. If you have a picture that's, like I said earlier, maybe it's not quite as sharp as you'd like it, you could use a painting effect on it. If you have a photo that has a prominent subject, but a boring or distracting background, oh, that's a good subject for, or a good photo candidate for a texture overlay or a color overlay, okay? Ones I frequently do. Creative lighting effects, or creative effects, I should say. You want to pick lighting that's kind of consistent. Part of the key to success here is trying to pick pictures that work with the particular effect. And you want, if you're adding a color overlay, like that one of the truck, there we go. That the colors in the color overlay background, I thought, work really well with the color of the rusty truck. Okay, so that's about blending. And before we go into blending, I want to stop. Well, I want to stop with the PowerPoint, and I want to go into Photoshop. Yeah, let's get rid of that. I'll tell you what, I'm just gonna minimize that. let's bring up Photoshop and I'll show you a couple of quick things. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail, but I want to show you what the some of the possibilities are. Okay, got to move my panel around here. All right. As I say, I'm not getting into the details of how you get pictures into Photoshop. It's fairly straightforward. You can learn how to do that pretty easily. But this is in Morocco, and I think it qualifies as a good candidate to do something else with, simply because it's an interesting photo, but the sky's kind of boring and this sand's kind of boring. So I could have gone to a pano, a horizontal pano, but let's add a texture layer. So as you can see over here in my layers panel, I already have, this is the background layer that you're looking at now. Above it is a texture layer, and it's actually a picture of a cement wall. Let's look at it. Oh, sorry. Let's look at it. Okay, that's what it looks like. And in Photoshop, when you have two layers, the top one hides the bottom, the ones below it, unless you lower the opacity, which is what I had done. But this is a concrete wall, and if I hide this layer, it shows me the base layer, the background layer. Okay, so two very, very easy things you can do once you have pictures like this in Photoshop, base layer on the bottom, your picture layer, and a texture layer above it. Here's the first thing you can do. Simply lower the opacity of the top layer. Ooh, that's a little too strong yet? Okay. I can bring it down. I can make it disappear. That's 0. I can add just a touch of the texture layer. You can add as much as you want. Now, just like in the iPhone apps, you can mask it out. You do it a little bit differently, though. You go down here and you hit this little icon, and it adds a layer mask, and then you can use a brush and brush the texture layer away from the parts that you don't want. Okay, that's procedure number 1, or method number 1. Let's try the other method. In Photoshop, you have blending modes, just like I explained before. And just as in the app we looked at, you have presets. So right here where it says normal are the blending modes. Oh, look at that. I've got a whole list of blending modes. I don't even have to click on them. I can just move my cursor above each blending mode, and it shows a preview of the results. Most of these you're not going to like. There are really only a couple that you usually overlay and soft light work pretty well. The other ones, not so much, but don't disregard them at all. I mean, totally. It depends on the picture. So multiply the picture and the texture overlay. Depends on the two. So color blend, linear, darken color, lighten, screen, color. Oh, let's go to overlay. There we go. Overlay, I think, looks pretty good. I could stick with that. And once again, if there are parts of it that I want to erase, like that line I'm not too cool about, maybe I would erase that or clone over that or move it around, okay? I can get my move tool and I can actually move the texture layer and I can then spread it out. Interesting thing about texture layers and color overlays is that, you don't have to worry about resolution. You're not preserving detail with the texture layer. You're just adding this gritty look to it. So you can spread your texture layer out as much as you want, and it's not going to be a problem. Not going to be a problem. So spread that out. Pardon me. Didn't want to do that. So you can spread it out, move it around, flip it upside down if you want to do all those kind of things. So the two ways to blend easily are, number 1, opacity of the top layer, or number 2, blending modes. Okay, let's look at a different picture. Oh, here we go. This is the original of the one at the Gerhardt machinery. Now, notice again, to save time and simplicity, I've already brought both layers into Photoshop. Here's the bottom layer that you're looking at. The little eyeball, it shows you that it's visible, and the lack of an eyeball here shows you it's hidden. So if I turn on the top layer, boom, that's what you see. This again is a color overlay that I created in Photoshop using generative AI and following Matt Kluskowski's instructions. Really cool. I created a whole library of these things that I could use for different effects. Okay, so I'm going to show you this real quickly, but watch this. You can, I want to hide the trees for the most part. Now, in the olden days before AI, you had to be a selection artist. You really had to learn how to select in Photoshop, and there was an art to it. Well, with AI, that's not true as much anymore. On a lot of images, you can let the AI in the program do the work for you. Now, this won't be as clean as I wanted to, but if I have the base layer selected, and if I go up here to select, I'm going to select subject. Watch what happens. Okay, working. Oh, see the marching ants, as they call them? They're around the trucks. Now, it picked both trucks in this instance, and I'm not going to clean it up right now, but because that takes too much time. But I could go in with a brush and just deselect the second truck to the right and only select the main truck on the left, which is what I showed you in the demo photo. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn on the top layer, and I'm going to hide the bottom layer. But look, the selection's already there. Now, I want to show you how simple this is. All I have to do now with this top layer selected, see the white rectangle went around. This is now selected, bottom layer selected, top layer selected. So top layer selected, I go down here to this little icon, which is add layer mask. Watch this. Bingo, I get a layer mask added, but it's backwards. Okay, I wanted it to hide the other part and show the trucks. So all I have to do is invert it. Command I or Control I, it inverts the mask. It was that simple. Now what I have to do is I have to go in and clean this up a little bit. It did a good job at the upper part, but see at the bottom, it doesn't look very realistic. So I can go into they call it the layer mask, as it's known here, pick a brush, and I'd want the brush to be, let's see, with this, that doesn't do anything, so we know it's the other color, and I can make sure I can brush away the overlay, or hide it, I should say. I had to adjust my flow and my opacity, and I only have one screen, so the stuff's getting in the way. So I can go down now and I can bring back more. I can hide more of that texture layer with a nice big soft brush and show some of the grass and give it a base. Okay. Now, if I wanted to, now I could hide that truck. I'm just going to show you real quickly. I can hide that second truck if I want with the layer mask and just put an overlay over top of it. And then I'd have to make my brush real small and get down there and get real detailed. I'd zoom in, and get real detailed and work my way around manually. So you can use AI to get a rough idea and then do the fine tuning work manually. Let's try this just on one other example that I think might even show it a little bit better. Where's my island picture? Oh, the hotel. Yeah. I was on board the cruise ship up on like the top deck as we left, and I forget where this was, to be honest. But again, I have both these layers in Photoshop already. You're looking at the base layer of the photo. The top layer, again, is a color overlay that I'd created myself in Photoshop. And now I already adjusted to the opacity. If it's at 100% opacity, of course, you can't see through it. So with the two layers there, I select the top layer, lower the opacity, and I start to be able to see through and see the base layer, but I still can see some of the color overlay. Take it down to 0, can't see it at all. Bring it back, maybe just a little bit, and then hit the eyeball there to see how you like it. Turn it off, turn it on. Oh yeah, that's noticeable. And and when you look at it all by itself, you may not think, oh, that's not a big deal. It's only at 21% opacity. But if you look at the two side by side or turn it on and off, you see what a difference it makes. Again, if I wanted to mask it off the building, I go down here and I create a mask, a layer mask, use the brush, and I can brush it, off. There we go. I can brush that blue off the building, and I would zoom in and make my brush smaller to be more careful. But I can brush it off anywhere that I don't want that blue color overlay to apply. Wow, wow. The whole idea is to blend the images together, the base layer and the texture layer, and do enough work with the brush that you don't see fringing and it doesn't look so much like two layers. And again, it's impressionistic photography. It's meant to go a step beyond reality. So before I close out of Photoshop, let me entertain any questions you might have about Photoshop.
Hey, Dennis.
Yes, Jean.
Just a quick little trick. When you're doing the blend modes, if you want to go into one of those funky ones like the linear dodge or whatever, play around with those. And then instead of using your opacity slider for those, use your fill slider
Okay.
instead. I think it was actually a trick from Matt Kozlowski as well.
Good. He's got a lot of tricks.
And yeah, he is. And sometimes, it looks horrible at 100%. Yeah. But at 2%, it might really be something that you would like.
Okay. Which one do you want to go with? Does it matter?
Why don't you do color dodge or linear dodge? Let's see what they look like.
Color burn, color dodge. Ooh. Color
How about
dodge?
linear? Yeah, try linear. Yeah, now take your fill and underneath the opacity slider.
Okay, right
the
there.
fill one. Yep. And just play with that a little bit.
Okay, there's 0.
Yeah.
Add a little bit of the effect in. There you go. So you've got something that's, I think, more appealing than that.
And that, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Jean, thank you. That's a good suggestion. And that's one thing to keep in mind is that don't be put off when you see something that makes you nauseous at first.
Exactly.
Work with it a little bit and try playing around, and you might find something that is more appealing. Thanks. Any other comments, questions, or suggestions? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing and then we'll, okay, one more time. Comments, questions, or suggestions? I don't know if this is stuff that you really want to incorporate. I have shown you techniques that I have learned over a period of time. So don't get frustrated and think that you should learn how to do these tomorrow. They take some time. And I went in order of complexity. Using your phone with the presets, the apps that have the presets, that's simple. You just try the presets. Using Snapseed, SnapArt. Using SnapArt on your computer, highly recommended. It's easy to use and you get some great looks. Part of the idea that I'm after is to draw some attention to my pictures. You've heard the statistics. Everybody looks at thousands of pictures every day. And if you're showing your pictures anywhere, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or wherever, your goal is to get people to look at your pictures. And if they're taking a second and a half and then moving on, did they really find the picture to be very interesting? But if you can get somebody to pause and wonder, what did she do to that picture? That's pretty cool. Or how did he do that? I think I've at least somewhat accomplished my goal. it's not always to get people to go, oh my, look at that. Although they might sometimes, stop and look. It's not just that, but it's a level of interest in what I've done that hopefully people find that interesting and they're curious about it. Okay, I'm gonna be quiet there. Actually, we got through that very quickly. I'm pleased that it went that smoothly, but certainly we'll take the time to entertain questions that you might have.
I have a quick question.
Okay.
On the iPhone apps that you were talking about, I know years ago you had recommended Snapseed, and I of course have been using that. But the other ones, and I know that one's free. The other ones, are they free or are they paid subscriptions or pay once? You know?
Well, you know how the world is evolving.
Yeah.
The older apps, and Impresso falls into that category, are very inexpensive. I think it's $1.99. But the company that makes it is called JixiPix. JixiPix. They have a slew of apps, and some of them are as expensive as $3.99. Right? But the older apps, the point is, the older apps tend to be cheap and they're a lifetime subscription. And some of them have been around for like 10 years, or more. Now, the newer apps, the companies have adopted the subscription model. So generally, you'll find that you can subscribe for a month. Some of them, it's like a month or 6 months or a year, and they have different prices. Or you can subscribe for a lifetime. Of course, each one of those options gets more and more expensive. So you really have to consider, maybe you want to try it for a month and see if you like it. Or if they have a trial period, which some do, try it and see if you like it, because there's no sense paying a lot, money. And it might be like, I think, as an example, Distressed FXS for a lifetime subscription, I think is like $25.
Oh, okay.
No, I use that enough. I think $25 is worthwhile.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's only on my phone. Okay. I can't use that on my computer.
Right,
Snapart, I think it was $49.95 last time I looked, but that's been a while. But I use that a lot too. So the newer, it's been around for years, as I said, but the newer apps, they go to a subscription model, and it depends on how much you're going to use it. And there's no way to tell this, but do I have faith that the company is going to stay in business? Because if the company goes in business or just stops supporting it, like Topaz did with Color Studio 2, then you're out of luck. But I haven't had much of a problem with that. So it's, some are cheap, the older ones. Some are subscription model, short period of time, and some for lifetime. Other questions or comments? See, somebody had comment in chat. Just let me check chat here before I'll play with it. Yep. Okay. Then. Okay. Well, tomorrow I'll put out the email that'll have the link to the recording. Oh, and a bunch of other stuff on it. Oh, a copy of my PowerPoint presentation. I'll put, if you like Snapseed, and even if you're not into these looks, these effects that I'm showing you, if you're a phone photographer, you should be at least aware of and probably using Snapseed for some effects. It's by Google and it's free. Google has a whole series of YouTube tutorials, one on each one of the tools in Snapseed. So I'll send you a link to the page that lists those tutorials. That's for Snapseed. The other stuff you can just Google on your own and pick up. That's no problem. I'll send you information about the Mechanicsburg print exhibit, and of course, information about the next online meeting, which is the image review and my property as the theme. Okay, your last chance.
Dennis,
Yes.
this is Carla.
Hi, Carla.
Hi. Good presentation. Very interesting.
Thank you.
The Distressed FX, do you use that or the Distressed FX Plus?
Distress FX, it was the original version, and they basically don't support that anymore. So, and then Distressed FX would have been a little bit more expensive. You have to had to upgrade to it. Well, I don't think you can do that any longer. But if you can, even if you can, I would recommend just going with Distressed FX Plus.
Okay. All right. I think that would be a good tool in my bag.
It would, yeah, knowing you. And I didn't mention it, but use what is it, Becca, or what's the one you use?
Picasso.
Oh, do you want to tell them about that app?
Yeah, I use that a lot for watercolor and oil.
How do you spell that?
BE, then capital CASSO, Picasso.
Okay. Now, I was a little surprised how expensive that one is. That's a newer app, and for a lifetime subscription, they ask for $80. for that.
hmm
Okay. But if you're going to use it a lot, okay,
And I use it a lot.
there you go. Well, because you think of the programs we pay for, you pay for Lightroom and Photoshop and, that sort of thing. So, it's not that far out of the line if you're using it.
hmm So, but yeah, good presentation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I'll stop the recording here just in case any